What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we're going to be continuing our look at Keyforge. Now, one of the things about Keyforge is that all the decks are random. They're all unique. I say random, they're made of an algorithm, but same kind of deal. Now, you probably know that. That is kind of like the thing about Keyforge. What is inevitable is that there are going to be certain combinations of cards which are potentially better than others. And people have found one which is apparently pretty good. So we need to have just a little bit of a look at this combo and actually tell ourselves, all right, is this actually as broken as it looks? And the answer is, it might be. So we start off with Library Access. Library Access is a very, very nice card, which essentially says that for the rest of the turn, every time you play a card, you draw a card. That sounds nice. And it is nice. And the thing is, as it stands at the moment, this stacks. So you play a Library Access and you draw a card. And then hopefully at some point you get a second Library Access, so every time you play Library Access you draw a card. And then you essentially just keep drawing and drawing and drawing. And then essentially every time you play a card you draw 4 cards and you get a redonkulous combo going on here where you're just drawing a huge amount of cards. And really this doesn't work without Library Access. Now, one card that's really good if you can combine with this is Phase Shift. Now, I don't have one of these decks that has the combo, but I do have a deck which has Library Access and multiple Phase Shift, and frankly, this builds up even more. Because now with Phase Shift, you can play one non-logos card this turn. But of course, if you play 2 Phase Shift, you can play a second, and so on and so forth. And if you can be drawing enough to cycle through your deck, you can keep playing Phase Shift, and you can keep playing non-logos cards. And remember, you play a Phase Shift, you draw a card. Then, of course, you're allowed to play a non-logos card, so you play it, you draw a second card. Let's say Snufflegator, because I love Snufflegator. So you play Phase Shift, and if you've got 4 Library Access, you draw 4 cards. And then you play your Snufflegator, and that's a second card, so you draw another 4 cards. And I've seen people cycle around with 4 Library Access. So you play a Phase Shift, draw 4 cards. Play a Snufflegator, 4 more cards. And so on and so forth. And remember, in Keyforge, there's no decking out. So when you run out of cards in your deck, you just shuffle your discard and it becomes your deck. Which, of course, shuffles in all your Phase Shift and so on and so forth. But it also shuffles in your Library Access. So you know when I said you could potentially get 4 Library Access? No, you can actually get more than that. Because you can just keep cycling through your deck. And it's Library Access and Phase Shift that really make this combo. Because Phase Shift lets you play extra cards. You've only got 12 logos cards in your deck. But Phase Shift allows you to play a non-logos card. Which means you can play extra cards, which means you can draw more with Library Access, and every time you go around shuffling your deck in, there's another Library Access, at least one more Phase Shift. And then you're potentially drawing 6 cards every time you play a card, and with Phase Shift that's basically 12 cards, and you'll be constantly cycling your deck until you draw through your deck over and over again. Okay, so we have established that Library Access and Phase Shift can be used very nicely to just draw through your deck. But how do we actually go about winning the game? Well, there are a couple of cards we can use. We've got Key Charge and we've got Abduction. Key Charge is an untamed card, and again, this is where we need Phase Shift because you cannot play Library Access and Key Charge in the same turn, different houses, unless you've got your Phase Shift. So what Key Charge allows you to do is lose 1 Ember, and then if you do, you can forge a key at its current cost. Essentially, you forge a key for 7 Ember. Cool. That's good. The thing is, and we're going to do a video about this in a little bit, but Key Charge is one of the cards that we believe will only ever appear once in a deck. We've had over 200,000 decks registered. None of them have more than 1 Key Charge. Fair to assume, not guaranteed, but fair to assume. Oh, that's not good. Because, well, now we can only play that once. We don't want one, we want more than one. Well, no worries, ladies and gentlemen, because we've got Nepenthe Seed. It's an Omni ability, which means that you can use it regardless of which house is your active house. You sacrifice the artifact, and then you return a card from your discard pile to your hand. Does anybody want to guess which card we're going to be focusing on? Yeah, it's going to be Key Charge. So now we are essentially charging 2 keys during our turn. We got library access and phase shift to dig through our deck and let us play whatever cards we want. Key Charge gets us a key, and then the Nepenthe Seed comes in and allows us to get a second Key Charge. Now, you don't actually need Nepenthe Seed here. It helps, but remember that when you play Key Charge, it just goes into your discard pile. Which means if you can just keep cycling around your deck, then you can just keep having Key Charge and you're golden. So the seed helps us, but it's not 100% needed. So we're drawing through our deck, we can forge extra keys, but we still need the Ember. If we're going to be doing 3 keys in one turn, we still need to find ourselves 21 Ember in order to be able to use Key Charge. Now, there are a couple of ways we can do this. What we could do is just go ahead and play a whole bunch of cards with Ember bonuses. So we're going to talk about Key Abduction for a moment. Let's just put that up on screen. Key Abduction has an Ember bonus, so that means when you play it, you get an Ember, and if you can play a few of these every time you cycle through your deck, you can essentially build up enough Ember here in order to do so. And we're going to largely be playing a Logos deck here. Logos is really the best one for this, so we've got plenty of Logos cards which help us to get an Ember. Whether that's Fogify, whether that's Lab Work, whether that's Positron Bolt, there are plenty. And Wild Wormhole is an exceptionally good one here. There are plenty of cards that we can use in order to get ourselves an Ember bonus as we go around. But there are, of course, ways to cheat this. One card I really like for this is Mating Season. It's got an Ember bonus, and you shuffle each Mars creature into your deck, and you gain 1 Ember for each creature shuffled into your deck in this way. So if you can just play down 4 Mars creatures, and you can essentially do this every time you go round your deck. So for argument's sake, you've got 4 creatures, you put all 4 of them down, you play Mating Season, and remember, this is shuffle your Mars creatures, not your ready Mars creatures. So you play them, they're exhausted, it doesn't matter. If you've got 4 Mars creatures, and every time you play Mating Season, you're basically getting 5 Ember. And remember, you're cycling round your deck with library access and phase shift. So you're going to be able to get Mating Season out a couple of times, and that will get all of your Ember. The reality is there are many different ways this combo can work. But there are only really 3 things that I consider that you need in order for this to work. You've got to have library access, because I've not seen another draw engine that works as well as this. If you think I'm wrong, comment section, people. And I think that you need to have phase shift just purely because Logos doesn't have any cards that can forge extra keys. Now, I've been talking so far about Key Charge, but it doesn't actually have to be Key Charge. It could be Key Abduction for Mars. You return each Mars creature to your owner's hand, and you can forge a key at +9 current cost, reduced by 1 Ember for each card in your hand. Now remember, what you're trying to do is cycle through your deck here as fast as you can. You are probably going to have a rather large hand, so Key Abduction can be used very nicely indeed. It is a nice alternative here to Key Charge. And they really are the only actions that can forge keys, so you need either Key Abduction or Key Charge. Either will be fine. You need library access, you need phase shift, and you need some way of generating Ember. You can't really be relying on reaping here, because of course you're going to be hopefully playing down a lot of creatures, but they're all going to be playing down exhausted. Maybe you're lucky enough to have something like Soft Landing, which plays them active, but then you need one phase shift for soft landing and then another phase shift to play down a Mars creature, and then that becomes super, super awkward. So I don't think we're going to play with that. There are a million different variations of this deck. But the reality is, it provides a draw engine to cycle through your deck several times in one turn. It allows you to play cards that forge extra keys, and it allows you, while cycling, to generate all of your Ember. I have given you examples of what this deck could look like, but as I've said, library access, phase shift, either key charge or key abduction, and some way to generate Ember is all you really need. As the game was launching, we were all going crazy for 4 Horsemen decks. Now that the game's a little bit older, we've all moved on. Now we're all going crazy for these kind of decks. And I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, these at least seem to have a better chance than 4 Horsemen. Although, do remember that specifically going out and trying to buy the perfect deck for much money, it's not really the point of the game. I do have a deck with library access and multiple phase shift, but unfortunately it does not have any way to generate extra keys, so at least I don't have to go and play that game. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know if you think this is a legit combo. Let me know if you've seen this in action or played against it. Go nuts, but please do remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where I ramble about stuff. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.